Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. When you think of the pioneers of computer programming, who comes to mind? Maybe Bill Gates, Steve Wozniak, or perhaps Alan Turing, the brilliant codebreaker of World War II. These are all titans of the 20th century. But what if I told you that the very first person to write a computer program to truly grasp the soul of a computer was a woman living in Victorian England, a full century before the first electronic computer was even a spark of an idea? Today, we're journeying back to the 19th century to uncover the extraordinary story of a woman whose genius foresaw the digital age, Ada Lovelace. Born in 1815 as Augusta Ada Byron, she was the only legitimate child of one of the most famous and infamous men of the era, the poet Lord Byron. Imagine a modern-day rock star. That was Byron. He was brilliant, scandalous, and the epitome of the Romantic movement. His marriage to Ada's mother, the highly intelligent and deeply religious Anne Isabella Milbank, was a disaster, lasting just long enough for Ada to be born. Fearing the poetic madness and volatile temperament of her famous husband would be passed down to her daughter, Lady Byron, whom the poet himself nicknamed the Princess of Parallelograms, devised a plan. She would inoculate Ada against the dangers of imagination and emotion with a strict, relentless curriculum of logic, science, and, above all, mathematics. From a young age, Ada's world was one of tutors, equations, and complex theories, a stark, rigid contrast to the passionate, chaotic world of her absent father. But Lady Byron's plan had an unintended, magnificent consequence. Instead of extinguishing Ada's imagination, the rigid structure of mathematics gave it a new language, a new framework through which to soar. The pivotal moment in Ada's life came in 1833. At just 17 years old, she was introduced to Charles Babbage, a celebrated and notoriously grumpy Cambridge mathematics professor. Babbage was a man obsessed with a single, monumental idea: eliminating human error from calculation. He showed the brilliant young Ada a portion of his life's work, a massive, intricate brass machine called the difference engine. To most people in the room, it was a fascinating curiosity, a complex clockwork contraption that could automatically generate mathematical tables. But Ada saw something more. While others saw gears and levers, she saw the beautiful, abstract logic humming beneath the surface. She understood the profound concept behind the machine. This initial meeting sparked a lifelong intellectual partnership. Babbage soon moved on from the difference engine to an even more ambitious concept, the analytical engine. And this is where history truly pivots. The difference engine was a marvel, but it was essentially a single-purpose calculator. The analytical engine was something else entirely. It was the blueprint for a general-purpose computer. Babbage's genius idea, inspired by the Jacquard loom, was to use punched cards to feed the machine instructions. Just as a loom used cards with holes to dictate intricate patterns in woven silk, the analytical engine would use cards to dictate a sequence of mathematical operations. It had a store for holding numbers, what we would call memory, and a mill for processing them, our CPU. It was a programmable machine. Years later, an Italian engineer named Luigi Manabria published an article about the analytical engine. Ada, whose grasp of the machine was second only to Babbage, was asked to translate it into English. But she didn't just translate it. She added her own set of notes, a sprawling appendix that ended up being 3 times longer than the original article. And within these notes, specifically in a section famously known as Note G, Ada Lovelace did something that no one had ever done before. She wrote the world's first computer program. She outlined in meticulous detail a step-by-step algorithm for how the analytical engine could calculate a complex sequence of numbers known as Bernoulli numbers. It wasn't just a formula, it was a sequence of operations, a loop, a process designed for a machine that did not yet exist. But here is the true measure of her visionary genius. Even Babbage, the inventor, saw his machine primarily as a number cruncher. Ada saw its soul. She realized that if the machine could manipulate numbers based on rules, it could manipulate symbols based on rules. In her notes, she famously wrote that the engine might act upon other things besides number. Supposing, for instance, that the fundamental relations of pitched sounds in the science of harmony and of musical composition were susceptible of such expression, the engine might compose elaborate and scientific pieces of music of any degree of complexity or extent. She envisioned a machine that could create art, weave music, and manipulate symbols, laying the theoretical groundwork for everything from digital music, computer graphics, to artificial intelligence. She saw that the true power of computing wasn't calculation, but computation. It was a conceptual leap that no one else, not even its inventor, had made. Her vision wasn't just about a machine. It was about the creative potential unlocked when logic and imagination are fused together. What do you think is the most mind-blowing part of Ada's story? That she pioneered these ideas as a woman in the 19th century? Or that she conceived of programming before a single computer even existed? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe for more hidden histories, and see you next time.